So, good evening to everyone over in Australia. Good morning to anyone who's with me over here on this side of the world. Thank you for tuning in to the Trackstars Touring Cars this morning. We just about have time to quickly take to the track a guide lap, so we'll do that before we start the broadcast in earnest. The Fuji International Speedway, revered as one of the all-time high-speed tracks over in Asia for many years, not quite as much of a force in that regard in this era. Still a very compelling circuit. This, the all-important Turn 1 braking zone, we're going to see so much action and overtaking there. Turns 2 and 3 go into one another. Just be careful not to take too much of that curb on either entry or exit. Turn 2, I think I just pushed the very limits there. Sweeping turn 3, lots of tyre scrub there. Make sure the car is settled out of this corner to try and get the power down as early as you can. Then down the hill, remember to yourself, we're not taking the chicane to our right. Starting to incline again, and of course this section introduced in 2005, more technical was here previously. Difficult to get the power on here as you go over the crest. Good offensive if you've got someone close to you. Set yourself up for a good run out of the final turn. Going wide if you don't have someone in the immediate path. That is a lap of Fuji Speedway. That's just about how you take turn 1 probably from speed as well. We are about ready to start qualifying here. We're not far away at all. A few reserve drivers in. We'll talk you through them as qualifying wears on. Remembered that the keyboards needs to be plugged in. That's always wise. So then, we are here at Fuji Speedway for round 4 of the Trackstars Touring Cars series. Oh, Paparazzi pushing the limits just a little bit there. And interesting to see which manufacturer finds itself in the hot seat here today. At Autopolis, it certainly looked like Honda was far and away the strongest car. These two, Wiseacre and Papa, at very close quarters at the moment. It'll be interesting to see how Wiseacre does today. He's had a mixed bag of fortunes lately. He can find himself a bit more luck. Maybe he's found himself a rabbit's foot over the course of the last couple of weeks or something of that nature. Why is it my fault, Benjo? Papa certainly was pushing the limits a little while ago, and certainly seems to be the case. Told it's starting soon, aside from ticking out, but okay. Telepathy, lads. Sometimes I make mistakes. Okay, so minutes of quali about to get underway. Looks like someone's having a background in the extreme there. Balls here, it looks to be affecting a couple as well. Something to do with lag there. Let's hope the session can wait. Everyone managed to move. No, not everybody. Chef Toddy, who's lagging massively. The sound of the tyres is quite compelling. Nonetheless, hopefully the session can run here. interesting changes to discuss in the pack this evening. Firstly is this car 18, running in the hands of Gabans as opposed to Deadpool. The British driver not here today. So we'll see. Bands fits in to the rankings here. In the NSX has been a very strong car to this point. New driver at play. It's going to get very intriguing. There's Spud. Our defending champion. Red flag has been declared. I'm guessing this is the stuck cars in pit lane. Expecting to see them quit. Diswood has left the room. Some lap times coming in, but the directive is to quit the lobby. Sure we'll be waiting until Diswood gets himself into the lobby again, since he left just a few moments ago. So the qualifying there being reduced to 8 minutes, so that's going to give them a little less time once they do get up and running. There's Wood, he's coming back in, which is good. But also we are indeed having RoboSport racing again, so RoboSport and Gabans filling in here. HSV Whitson, I think, has made an appearance or two this season, but he's not necessarily the regular driver either. But Farrell PS unable to make it. RoboSport has hopped back at the wheel on this team's car. Brandosa leads them away for what is now 8 minutes of qualifying here at the Fuji International Speedway. The Nissans have probably had the worst form of anyone here, any manufacturer here in this season to this point. So we'll be watching with interest today as to whether that continues, whether we see a little more extracted from the GTRs today. Of course, this circuit, the traditional home of the Nismo Festival event, which celebrates Nissan's racing achievements past and present. So they're going to be hoping in the virtual Nissan boardroom that this is a slightly better day for them. And there's Gabans then, who's going to be leading them away. He's going to be the benchmark that everyone else is going to be shooting for then. The NSX with the new driver at the wheel. So he's taking turn one very nicely there. Look, you could almost see the car lengths building over Brandosa behind him. The long sweeping turn three. Right on board with Gabans. In the Cartel Equipment hire-backed It's Racing esports machine. Comes onto the curb and the AstroTurf there. These drivers making sure to use every inch of circuit space and beyond. We'll just miss the apex a little bit there. We've lost a couple of tenths, got onto the curb there as well, which compromises entry speed. Into the second last corner, final corner of the lap. Power down early, has to fight the rear end of the NSX. Let's see what the resulting lap time is. Say 22.2 for him. Brandosa across the line on a 23.4. Xiaomi, Toddy, It's Racing, all coming over the line. It's Racing goes second. Gabans currently with the quickest time. Diswood crosses the line on a 21.4. That's a very impressive lap time from him. Robosport just coming across the line now. 1:26 on his first attempt. It's this man Diswood, so often the form driver so far this season, certainly in terms of one lap pace. Gabans second place, 3/4 of a second off the pace at this point. It is not an insignificant margin. Papa 18 there in third spot. Car hoping to run well. We'll be seeing what the CP Motorsports Honda is capable of in the hands of Diswood. He's got a very effective benchmark. Here comes Gabans now to cross the line to complete another lap. He doesn't improve on that occasion. Let's see what Punts can do at the wheel of the Lexus. Where's his teammate, actually? Not seeing the Spud. Improves only to 9th place there. Let's see what Punts can do from 4th. Doesn't improve either. We've got 3 Hondas at the top at the moment. Xiaomi there. Very loose in front of It's Racing. Didn't compromise It's Racing, but might have raised his heartbeat a little bit. It's just a few hundreds up on his PB at the moment. Grass tracking further back from one of the GTRs. I think that was Toddy. Oh, a little bit of tyre scrub from It's. Let's go back to the front car. Gabans second place. Can he go any further? No. Slower lap time. Brandosa set to 23.1. And It's Racing doesn't improve. Looks like quite a few drivers here peaking quite early in the session. a good lap from Spud, our championship leader at the moment, we remind you, and Spud. 382 points for Spud at the moment, 375 for Punt. Oh, and Spud's immediately thrown this lap away. He's just about going to get around the circuit in time to start one last flying lap with 90 seconds left on the clock, but it's going to be all or nothing. Otherwise, Spud is going to be starting very much out of the position we'd expect. But the top three in the championship at the moment separated by just 8 points, 382 points for N-Spud in the Lexus from Mash Spud's Racing. Punt's his teammate on 375 and It's Racing's Honda on 374 points as it stands. Brandosa in fourth on 368 and Deadpool, who's not here, on 349, rounding out the top five at the moment. So certainly a tight championship battle coming into this race, and a poor qualifying from our championship leader can start to shift the scales further in the direction of Punt's or the Honda drivers. Looks like Wood is setting himself up for one last flyer. Papa AT, meanwhile, goes second place. It's currently a CP Motorsports front row. Oh, but he's not going to get that last flying lap in. HSV making a similar error, though. That AstroTurf does not forgive on the exit of T1. So Gabans will be the next man across the line with a lap time. Is this lap time going to be any sort of improvement? Corner on the grass, the 18 car heads towards the flag. Is it an improvement of any description? Not quite. Brandosa across the line, doesn't improve his time either. Isaac Tokyo drifting there. It's Racing. Like he had a pen there, so that last lap didn't go to plan. Spud crosses the line with a 22.5. Where does that put him? 5th place. Okay, so he's back up there with his Mash Spud's teammate. I was just trying to find him before he crossed the line on my keyboard, but didn't quite get there. Nonetheless, a 22.5 will be a big relief for him. One last car coming across the line, and I can't find it. It didn't set a better lap time by the looks of it. Nonetheless, the CP Motorsports cap, particularly this man Dis Wood, will be celebrating a 21.4. An anomaly of a lap, almost 7/10 clear of anyone else out there on circuit. Just 3 cars within a second, all of them NSXs. Supporting CP Motorsport, and CP Motorsport with the pound seat in this first of 3 11-lap races that we will see here today at Fuji. 3 lights, 4 lights, 5 lights. We're underway at Fuji Speedway. Looks like a good start from everybody off the line, which is good to see. Dis Wood not have the inside into turn 1, but he does have the lead into turn 1, or does he? Paparatti's right there with him. Oh, bit of a wheel on the AstroTurf there, but everyone keeps it together through the first corner by the looks of it. It's the CP Motorsport NSX's formation flying. Wiseacre all the way up to P3 there. Wiseacre showing some good form in the early going, up to 3rd position. Gabans in 4th place, Punt's down there in 5th, and Spud's been dropped to 7th place, so some shuffling in the order, Robosport, all the way up to P8, the number 20 car. Some impressive early driving, but ends up on the grass there. Sweeping right-hander. Was a bit late on the brakes there, was very lucky not to collide with the back of Pointed. Some drivers throwing shapes as they go over the crest there at the second last corner. Easy done. It's Racing picks up 7th place from Pointed as a result of that. So at the head of the order, it's Diswood making a gap, which, given his qualifying time, isn't necessarily a surprise. Papa AT in 2nd place, but Wiseacre's challenging. Oh, a little bit of contact there. The Shaden Racing Team driver, though, holds strong and takes 2nd place. That wasn't intentional from Papa, just ended up having to correct a slide. Got into the side of Wiseacre, but Wiseacre holding firm, holding strong. And on lap 2 of the race, he is into 2nd place. Gabans is the next driver on the rear bumper of Papa AT. Reserve driver today for It's Racing Esports. Looks to the inside, doesn't find a way through there. A bit wide from Papa. Spud there up to 5th place, so he's already recovered his losses from the first couple of corners. Backed Altapac backs Matt Spud's racing entry. Our thanks as always to Lead Brake Mechanical, sponsoring and supporting the Trackstar Racing Series events. Hands there slightly earlier on the brakes than Papa into T1. Papa doesn't need much in the way of invitation when it comes to retaining places. So he's dropped. He was, 4th on the grid if memory serves correctly, and he's fallen quite a bit. It's Racing ahead with a penalty. Now he can serve it here into T8, and he most likely will do. Yes, he did. Pointed up to 6th place, so Pointed making his way through the ranks. Bunts there runs it wide, and that allows It's Racing straight back past. So Pointed has managed to break a little free of them as well. Is he out of slip? He is just about out of the slipstream range as well, unless it's gets a very good launch out of the final corner, and he does, in fairness. Let's go back to the front of the order and look at this. Wiseacre hasn't really got a cushion as such over Papa AT. Hands there, looking very leery on the attack from Spud, who's moved up to 4th place. Judging on that last lap time of 1:24, the bands must have made an error to drop further down the order. He was looking very racy in trying to return back to the top 4. So all 3 manufacturers currently represented in the top 5. Wiseacre, who's had little to no fortune thus far in the season, running in 2nd place on lap 4 of 11. This is really good to see the 144 car finally get its run with the rabbit foot. For him, he'll already know that this is about retaining P2. 3.8 seconds growing the gap between Diswood and the rest of the field at the front of the order. And this car, immaculately prepared, CP Motorsports NSX, is more than likely to clear off into the distance more so, especially with Wood on the form he seems to be on here today at Fuji. The question is, the two cars in the front row, the CP Motorsports teammates, will they be 1-2 at the end of this race? Well, Wiseacre has certainly provided a ripple in that plan, and at the moment he's holding strong. Band's pressuring Spud, Pointed under pressure from It's Racing. It's Racing with a very good exit. Leon Gantry. Good racing this from both of them. It's up the inside. Is he going to be able to make it stick there? Side by side, a little bit of wheel to wheel, fender to fender. It's Racing just struggling to get the power down in that NSX. Did he run it wide there? Not quite. I thought he might have ended up on the Astro and into the runoff area, but he just about held it together. He's now in the slip then. Looks like he's going to clear Pointed. What about his teammate Gaban's just up the road? Oh, he manages to... No, he doesn't get himself stopped for the corner. I thought he had the... Well, he did have the inside. We saw that, but unfortunately, he didn't make the turn. Pointed has held on to 6th place there, and he's now finding himself wedged between the two green NSXs. Pointed has been on a decent run of form lately. And with the penalty now being applied to It's Racing, he'll take on the approach to the sweeping bend. We may well see Pointed now be able to go on the attack on Gaband rather than continuing to defend from it. We may see the pit lane esports driver make advances on a top 5 position here. Stalking the It's Racing esports car of Gaband's. He is well within slip as they head down towards T1. Is he going to be close enough by the time he gets to the end of the straight? It's the outside line, almost got a wheel on the grass there. He's a bit later on the brakes, but Gaband's there. Going very, very defensive and ends up running himself off the track. Paparazzi with a moment. Let's take a look at this from Pointed. Gaband's, that is not on at all. Ran himself off the circuit and took Pointed with him. I'm not sure I could see an argument for that being fair game. Himself down to 7th place in all of that. He's now It's Racing all the way up to 4th, but of course they were assisted there by this man Paparazzi. We didn't see what happened to him there, but based on where his car was, I think we can gather that it was a piece of AstroTurf that spun him out. I think Chef Toddy there may have ended up on the Astro as well just a moment ago. Question is Papa going to hold strong, or is he going to pop into the pits? No, he continues on for the time being. Pointed, meanwhile, on the attack. Does a slightly cleaner version of the block defense of the inside line to make it up to 4th position. It's Racing isn't going to take that line down, though. Pointed back where he effectively would have been if it weren't for that incident with Gaband's. It's better exit, but again the NSX bites back. It's a piranha on 4 wheels, that car. Oh, little bit of contact, I think, maybe in the braking zone, and It's Racing is through into 4th place. A little bit of netcode on my end there. It's Racing into P4. Immediately fully sideways and pointed, rightfully takes the door as open as it was. Now he's right up on the rear wing of that Honda. It's Racing going defensive. Is made before they get to the corner, but It's Racing surely outbraked himself there. No, not quite. He was much later on the anchors, but he just about got it and stopped in time for the apex. Meanwhile, Punts is on the warpath there. P7. Bands has had some quick laps here, but he's not been all that consistent. And a word as well to HSV making his return here. The other Pit Lane Esports Lexus. Pit Lane Esports guys definitely on the ascendancy. If you look back to the Red Bull Ring, for example, they weren't really in the hunt, but getting better week on week. PLE guys. Top 3 all fairly strung out. Spuds up to 3rd with Paparetti's error, of course. Things much less settled as we head towards the penultimate lap of the race. We're not just talking about the rear end of It's Racing's NSX. Pointed with a slightly mediocre run out of the last corner. And that's going to be interesting because Gabans is right there. They've already had one little moment between themselves at turn 1, which hindered them both. There, the last of the late breakers. I don't know if he ended up using the rear end of It's Racing's car to stop himself there, but he was right on the limits of missing T1 altogether. Benjo, there's only a 20-second window for replay. It's Racing then, in 4th place for the time being. Pointed. Oh, just a snap of oversteer there. It's Racing. Pointed. Be happy with the top 5. Wants every position he can stake a place on. Therefore, he's going to try and find a way to close in on it. But look at that. It's Racing has got a second over Pointed now. Which is more than enough to be clear of the slip. Gabans isn't within firing range of T1 here for Pointed. Pointed gets a wheel on the AstroTurf, and that's all it takes. So unfortunate for the Pit Lane Esports driver who's had a wonderful race to that point. He got a wheel on the Astro. It was always going to be dangerous from there, and unfortunately it bit him in a big way. He's down to 9th place. There's Paparetti, who's clearly had dramas galore in the last few laps, all the way down in 13th spot. Mix running far behind at the back. Looks like most of the positions have calmed down now. Well, there was one position that was never in doubt, and it was this man's win. The CP Motorsports NSX looking like the form vehicle, and Diswood taking the win by almost 9 seconds. Here comes Wiseacre. It's across the line in 2nd place. Spud will follow him in 3rd. It crosses the line in 4th ahead of Gabans. Running out the top 5 then, Punts in the 2nd Spud's entry. HSV, even with the dramas for his teammate, worth noting that HSV there with a very good 7th
place, pointed across the line behind Robosport and Brandosa. Brandosa taking 8th, Robosport with a good 9th place, filling in for Farrell PS and Pointed running out the top 10, and it's going to be very much a what could have been exercise. His pit stall between races here, running as high as 4th place. Spun out of 5th on the very last lap after fighting nobly with both of the It's Racing esports cars. Toddy taking 11th place. Xiaomi, Papa AT and Mix rounding out the order. So then, Lurox 22 has joined the room, and this is because Robosport is moving into the safety car position. Benjo has left the room entirely, as we saw. He was filling in a safety car for race 1, and now we have the interesting dynamic of Lurox 22, one of the fastest and most consistent drivers in Trackstars touring cars, and he'll be taking to the track now, back at the wheel of his Robosport racing entry. Great to see Wesley, Tom, Daniel, Benjo all tuning in and commenting on the live stream. Tom certainly one from my end of the world, but for most of you here, you're joining me on your Sunday evening, and we thank you for doing so. It's been a compelling season so far in the Trackstars touring cars. And I think, certainly within the races that I've broadcast over the last 2 seasons, this is a first, a mid-race seat change, or a mid-event seat change. Race 1, this car was driven by Robosport, who finished a respectable 9th place. Meanwhile, Lurox 22 is going to take the next 2 events. Now, I'm not certain of the ruling on this. I'm fairly sure Lurox will be taking the back of the grid as opposed to the 9th place earned by Robo. That would make sense. It tends to follow driver rather than car, the grid slot between races. So we're about to have the second of 3 races here this evening. Much seeing a homeland for these cars effectively with the Fuji Speedway. More than likely has held more Super GT and Japanese GT Championship races than any other circuit. Sometimes we visited 2 to 3 times a season in the early days. We are taking these Class 1 spec cars, these Group 2 category cars to their homeland. Of course, we're seeing a lot of compelling and slightly left field locales for other categories this weekend. If you were to rewind the clock 20 years, I think many people would have expected a Formula One circuit, or a MotoGP circuit for that matter, to spring up in the desert, but in Qatar and in Bahrain, that is of course what we have, the MotoGP and Formula One respectively. Of course, both established circuits at this point. I think both of them opened in 2004. But certainly, if you were to rewind the clock, these tracks in the desert were not only less common, but a bit of a fever dream. But that's what we have these days. And of course, if you go over to the US, NASCAR running their first dirt race for the main Cup Series in over half a century at Bristol this weekend. And, I'm sure a few of our buddies over in Australia may make that their Monday morning viewing. Certainly going to be my Sunday evening viewing tonight. Curiosity, don't think it's morbid curiosity, but it's certainly curiosity. See how that pays off. Here at the Track Stars, we are taking these cars to one of their spiritual homes today, so we're thinking more inside the box than most this weekend. Lots of chatter in the live chat. Thank you, Benjo. And Pointed and Papa dissecting their races, and I'm so disappointed for Disappointed. To be honest, that was a very good result that he looked like he was about to have. But he'll recover in the second race. I have faith in that. Papa AT did indeed do the same thing. Both Pointed and Papa found themselves across the track after getting a wheel on the AstroTurf at turn 1. So easily done. So then, Lurox should be starting from the back of the grid. Sure enough, he does. Robo Sporting safety car, of course, notwithstanding. It's Diswood who will start from the front of the field then. On board with Wiseacre as the race gets underway. Looks like most of them have managed to make it through clean. One of the Robo Sports cars found itself in strife there. I think Pointed may have had some issues further back as well. I was having some issues of my own there. My laptop was dying and I didn't know why. It turned out I hadn't turned on the charger. Anyway, we continue on this first lap then, and once again Diswood has absolutely driven away at the front of the order. Wiseacre holding strong in third from Spud, and it's racing. It was actually HSV that had the little bit of a hiccup into the first couple of corners, so Pointed has already started his ascent through the order by the looks of it. I think it was the other Robo Sport car, because Lurox is right there in 10th place. Look at Brandosa there, diving up the inside, but Lurox isn't going to take that sitting down. Sure enough, Mix in the other Robo Sport car. Also running effectively as a reserve here. Getting himself off the track there in the first couple of corners. Again, apologies for the scruffy start there. I had to make sure the stream didn't die by way of laptop. It's there, running it wide, it's racing. Lost a couple of positions on the first lap. Paparetti had a wonderful first lap to be all the way back up in 4th place though. It's racing and Punts running side by side. Punts has the line, but it's racing will have the slip if he manages to keep the car in a straight line. And well, we saw there that that's easier said than done at times. Can't quite catch it on the replay, but let's see how the teammates negotiate turn 1. Gapan's very early on the brakes there, doesn't want to cause any controversy among the It's Racing Esports camp. Running in 7th place at the moment, but Paparetti has just moved up to 3rd place, albeit he's garnered a penalty somewhere. Spud is up to 2nd as well, so Wiseacre having a few issues. But Papa, Italy's going to lose a fair chunk of time here. But Papa has been exemplary in these first couple of laps, but now he finds himself in amongst the battle pack. Punts pounces. Gives himself 4th place, but then he gave himself a mighty haul of oversteer to correct. Papa claims 4th place back, and it's racing into the wall. That's the car I wanted to be following there. There you see it. It's racing in Punts with the collision. Apologies for that. Following the wrong car for just a second there, but it's racing. Did he get away without damage in that? He did clobber the wall a little bit, I think, but he has just about gone without damage, but that was, I think, all him. I don't think he'll argue that. Like he just put the power down too early, to me. I could be wrong. Pointed up to 5th place, meanwhile. With all of that going on, he's managed to pick off the 2 drivers that jettisoned off into the second last corner there. But into P4 then. Starting to clear off a little bit. There goes Lurox with a bit of a body check on the side of Gabans there. 22 car. Lurox is always in the midst of battle. Maybe looking to make his way back up to his rightful place towards the front of the order there. Rightful place at the front of the order. I don't think we can argue that for Diswood today. 121s on every lap so far in this race. No one else is even coming close. Spud in 2nd. Wiseacre there in 3rd. So all 3 manufacturers represented in the top 3 at the moment. Paparetti looking to quash that statistic though in the 2nd CP Motorsports car. CP looking like the lead Honda team as it stands in this weekend at the very least. Punts under pressure from Brandosa for P7. I think Lurox may have had an error or an issue there. He's seemingly dropped back a little bit. He's racing. There's a lot of work to do in the second half of this race. Down in 10th spot. Toddy, meanwhile, is running the better part of a lap down already. Looks like a good battle here for 6th place. Cabans almost goes into pit lane. He's defending the inside so hard. Once on the outside, Cabans on the inside. We know that he's prone to not leaving much room. We saw it there again. Punts did well to hold that. Fair driving from all three though. Brandosa very much involved in this skirmish as well. All looking to the inside there at the second apex of turn 3, which is always bold. It's a little bit wide. Has just broken free of Punts there, only marginally, but should be able to make it to turn 1 in peace, so long as he gets through this final sector nicely. However, Punts is going to have to worry quite a lot about Brandosa behind him. Brandosa in the slip. Looks like Punts is going to let him have the inside. The heat breaker mechanical GTR looking for every ounce of slipstream it can get. Brandosa not quite able to find a way through. There's Wood continuing to lead the way by an ever-increasing gap over our defending champion. Spud, our points leader coming into this weekend as well. I think this is going to do him a lot of good, the results so far. Especially with its racing down the order. Let's check in with it. It's still running in 10th place. The slightest of errors can really cause some grief. We've seen that here. I can hear the mic crackle seems to be coming through. So as well, mic crackle and game audio. Pointed. Looks like he's going around the outside of Papa. Pointed has been so strong so far today. He wants the 4th place that he almost had in race 1. Cautious at turn 1 than he was in the first race, I think. If he can claim that position, I'm sure he'll be delighted. But they're running so wide. The AstroTurf is going to have a layer of tarmac all of its own by the end of this from some of these drivers. Pointed for a breakthrough to 4th place, but of course if these two start fighting, well, they already have been fighting, but they keep on holding each other up slightly in battle. Gaband is closing in, is just about within slip range on this lap as well. No, it looks like he might just be out of it actually, but he's certainly right there with them. Defensive from Papa, pointed all the way around the outside, late on the brakes, and They're side by side again. Lots of argy-bargy, contact galore. But Papa just about holds on to it there. Thought he'd maybe been a bit too early on the brakes there. In fact, I'm fairly certain he was too early on the brakes there. However, he still managed to hold on to the position for the time being. Oh, but almost fails to hold on to the rear end of the car there. This isn't really an overtaking place coming up, but a good run nonetheless from Pointed. Doesn't make the move, probably wisely. Of course, I think Papa is going to be sweating buckets here. He's also going to be wishing he could challenge Wiseacre for third, but that's not happening because there goes Pointed up the inside, and oh, Papa makes effectively the exact same mistake that we saw from It's Racing just a moment ago, and Papa AT, all of his hard work undone in one fell swoop there. He's now under pressure from It's Racing. Follow these two for the time being then, the two Hondas on the charge. Papa AT looking to the inside, but is It's Racing going to make it 3 wide? It is effectively 3 wide into turn 1. Papa AT gets 6th place out of that. Brandosa losing 2 positions in one fell swoop. The Hondas disappear off into the distance, and now it's Papa versus It's. 2 Honda drivers who effectively made the same error, now on the same piece of tarmac. Brandosa and of course Punts there as well, recovering from being caught up in that with It's Racing earlier. So Pointed leads the way. This battle for 4th place, has of course lost a fighter. Papa AT now down in 6th position, and well, as we go on to the final lap, Pointed is in the place that he had for a part of race 1. Of course, he was running 5th coming into the final lap when he ended up making that late race error. And now he's got to deal with Gabans on this final lap of the race. He makes it clean through turn 1, took no chances with the curb there, and Gabans has a half-second penalty, so that could play well into the hands of Pointed. Let's just look back to this battle for 6. And with his wipers going, Papa AT looks like he is going to at least hold on to 6th place, which is an improvement on the previous race, of course, but he's still not going to be happy. Neither of the Hondas on screen, Papa or It's, will be particularly delighted with how their race has gone. It looks to me as though Pointed just about has this one under control. As he makes an error in this final sector, he should hold on to P4. Much deserved. Meanwhile, a much deserved win for Diswood. Crosses the line in another postcode, a dozen seconds clear of Spud in 2nd. Wiseacre is going to take 3rd, and 4th place will just go to Pointed. Great driving from Pointed. Disappointed he will not be with that recovery, taking the 4th place he arguably deserved in the first race. Certainly deserved a top 5 in the first race. Papa AT finishing behind Gabans in 6th. It's Racing, the other recovering Honda, in 7th. Punts in 8th. Brandosa 9th, and Lurox rounding out the top 10 on very little track time. Great to see him back out there. We'll see if he can make moves in race 3. Xiaomi and Mix 11th and 12th. 13th for HSV, slightly less clean race for the other pit lane esports driver on this occasion, and Chef Toddy a lap down but finishing in 14th. It's the Shaded Racing team with some mixed fortunes as well. One of their drivers finishing 14th, but Wiseacre, we should highlight having an absolutely wonderful weekend to this point. Fairly certain this is his strongest weekend so far in the season. There we go, another win for Diswood, 2 from 2. And that CP Motorsports Honda is almost in a completely different league from everything else out there on circuit. Just look at the gap here, 11.6 seconds. Very impressive. There you can see the specs of these cars. Of course, some ballast attributed to a few of them. It's racing. Running a full 933 kilos on his car at the moment. It's pretty hefty. 5-minute break before the third race. So then, just a few minutes before we get back to racing, let's see how they're doing some driving. Lurox 22, unsurprisingly, looking to grasp every inch of track time he can. Oh, maybe not. As if to disprove me instantly. This man, Diswood, looks to have completely mastered this circuit. 7/10 clearing quali. Driver swaps between races. It doesn't have to set the grid manually, as you saw there doing it to grid based on previous race results, and that means, of course, that this man will be on pole position, but you already knew that. Even if this was a reverse grid race, Woodsy would find a way to comfortably go through the field and just drive off into the distance. He's been really on one, showing form that no one else can even aspire to. HSV will be hoping for a good third race to match his first one. The second race didn't quite go as well. So then, the third and final race of the day for the Trackstars Touring Cars is about to get underway. It's Woodsy on pole. Pre-event championship leader Spud starting from second place. Robo Sport there in the safety car as we see the lights. And we see the green flag. We're back racing for the final time. Looks like Wood there got not as good of a start as he'd have liked. In fact, no, it was a very good start. He just got a lot of wheel spin. Oh, looks like there's going to be a bit of a concertina here into turn one. Wiseacre's off the track. Papa AT was off the track as well. Someone was spinning there, I think. Let's go back to the rear end of the order. Lurox has found himself well behind. Brandosa's having issues. Wiseacre looks like he's having some serious problems there. Is that internet or is that just the car? I don't actually see him anymore. Well, there he is in 14th. No, he's just having a nightmare of a first lap, which is really unfortunate after two brilliant races. Meanwhile, at the front of the order, it's Diswood and Papa AT that lead the way. The CP Motorsports drivers. dramatic first lap, and Spud, who was down in 5th place at one point, is back up to 3rd behind the two CPNSXs. It's racing up to 4th place, so he's a big winner from lap 1 as well. I think everyone else, aside from those who ended up on the AstroTurf, has just about held station. HSV has moved up to 9th place. Well on the way to getting a better result in this one as it stands. Wiseacre and Lurox, meanwhile, two drivers who would expect to be better seated than they currently are. Running 13th and 14th, and Lurox is struggling here. He's got some front end damage, so I don't think he's getting quite as much bite into the corners as he'd like. And Wiseacre, some damage to the rear of the car as well. It does look like it's having some lag as well. Spud, meanwhile, under pressure from It's Racing. The TS2 commentary booth are looking set to implode before our eyes here. Here goes Spud, going defensive. Holds the position for the time being. It's racing to the inside. It's racing, pressuring Spud hard here. Spud to the inside. Strong here in P3, and well, as he continues to go defensive, more and more drivers are getting involved. Again, the pit lane esports driver disappointed. He's having to defend from the bans, but at the moment it's a 4-car train, maybe even a 5-car train, because Bunce is looking lively as well. It's racing to the outside, because Spud holding on to the inside for all he was worth there. Not really the optimal place to try and make an overtake, but it can be done. Keeping both cars on track if you make an overtake there is often difficult. It's racing, going for the block pass. Side by side, and it isn't quite going to be able to take the inside. Oh no, he does just get a nose on the inside, and Spud there tail whips the side of the NSX, trying to scrabble for traction. Now this gives Pointed a great opportunity from P5, because It's Racing doesn't have any slip, while Pointed does, and It's Racing furiously defends the inside. They're 3 wide into T1. It's Racing, the latest of the late breakers. It looks as though It's has managed to stake his claim on 3rd place. He was very ferocious in his defence of the inside there with Pointed. At this, it's certainly a 5-car train now. This is very close racing between the 5 of them. It's Racing who leads them, but we are just coming on to this long, kilometre-long front straight now. Separates the men from the boys, especially once they get to turn 1, and they have to put the anchors on. Pointed looks to be the man in the most danger, though. Spud may yet manage to find a way past It's Racing as well. Let's take a look at them. Spud goes to the outside. It's Racing sternly holds on to the inside line. Both of them run it wide. Pointed almost does the same. Wheel on the AstroTurf. He won't have liked that, but he manages to hold on to it this time. Xiaomi looking like he might get involved as well. I think this is about the highest he's run today in 8th place. Good to see. Meanwhile, formation flying at the front of the order. 4 seconds between Diswood and Papa, and a further 4 seconds between Papa and the pack. And well, it's certainly a full-bodied pack at the moment. Looks like Bands and Pointed in particular very close together. It's Racing is actually just about broken slip on Spud at this stage. We'll see if that translates once they get to the main straight. Spud will be watching those rear view mirrors because Pointed is right there with him. Top Lexus honours at stake. Last season it was largely undisputed. He was the top Lexus team. This year, Pit Lane Esports have been mounting a challenge. Pointed mounting a challenge to the inside of Spud, but he's Gaban's attacking him as well. They all stay in the same order for the time being. Punts is also right there on the back of Gaban's. Everyone who wants to attack is also having to defend. Allowing it to just slightly break free in P3. At the moment it's an all-Honda podium. Of course, Wiseacre, who was leading the charge for the Nissans, is... Where is he? He's down in 12th at the moment. Larox had to pit with his damage. Looks as though Whitson is struggling a bit towards the back of the order, which is unfortunate after a good first race. Let's go back to the battle. We saw there Wiseacre all the way down in 12th, which is really unfortunate after such a good showing in races 1 and 2. Spud is quite going to be able to go on the offensive for It's Racing there. But Gabans looks to the inside of Pointed, takes the inside, but misses his braking marker. Oh, but there goes Spud. Spud with an issue there. What happened to Spud? Let's take a look. I think it's going to be the classic wheel on the AstroTurf. Yeah, sure enough, so easily done at turn 1, and very good to avoid that there by Gabans. So Spud all the way down to P6, Xiaomi up to 7th meanwhile, so Punts has shed a place or two there as well. Mash Spud's boys not having it easy at the moment. Pointed up to 4th place once more. He's going to be at split purposes now because he'll want to hold on to E4 from Gabans on the attack behind him, but he'd also quite like to try and catch up to It's Racing and challenge for a podium. Certainly on form and balance. He may well be able to do it. He's been very impressive. That first race, last lap error notwithstanding. Not that long left though. Just punched myself in the side of the head. The shadow of Mount Fuji though. Eastwood has been commanding. Very impressed with his performance. Let's look back to that scrum of cars fighting over 6th place. Xiaomi and Brandosa in the Elite Brake and Mechanical cars, hounding the MASH Spuds. It's a 2-on-2 battle between the teams here. Looks like Punts may have taken just a nibble out of Brandosa's splitter there. But not a good race for the MASH Spuds. Meanwhile, only in 11th. It's not been great for him in the second Robo Sport car. It's racing. They're in third and pointed. On to P4 at the moment. Looks as though Gabans has just slightly slip back here, and look at the gap between its racing and pointed. It was about 1.4 seconds. It's effectively halved, although the NSX much quicker through this section by the looks of it. Let's see if pointed can just maybe get into the slip as they go down the main straight for the last time. He's not quite there at the moment, but as soon as he's in that slip, of course, he'll effectively gain 2 or 3 more tenths on its racing as he goes down the main straight. He's so achingly close to doing so. I think Diswood may have made a slight error. Indeed, a 1:24 last time for Diswood. So he shouldn't be in danger of losing the win, but even the driver who's been so commanding come unstuck. It's racing, Pointed and Gabans filling out the top 5 at the moment, and Pointed is there in the slip, so he might be able to challenge for a podium for Pit Lane Esports on this final lap of the race. He's well within slip now. He's going to be able to fight its racing to the bitter end here. We're on the final lap of the race, and that podium position is definitely up for debate. Pointed in the 24 car, pressuring the back of the 95. It's Jeff Gordon versus Lightning McQueen in terms of the numbers, 24 and 95, real NASCAR and Disney NASCAR. Pointed with a slightly cleaner run out of that corner. Again, will close up as they head towards this braking zone, but he's not going to be able to make it stick here. It's going to have to happen in this twisty last section. Meanwhile, it looks like the win isn't certain either. Woodsy with a couple of bad laps, but he should just about hold on to take the win over Papa. Pointed is not challenging it. In fact, Gabans may yet have a word for him. It looks like everyone's going to stay in their rightful position. Formation flying for the CP Motorsports cars. Wood and Papa taking home the top 2, and it's an all-Honda podium with its racing finishing 3rd place. Pointed not quite able to find a way through on the final lap, although it was a stellar effort to take 4th place and challenge for the podium there from Disappointing, who's looking better every week. Gabans crossing the line in 5th. 4 of the top 5 Hondas in that 3rd race. Spud holding or taking 6th place eventually after his error. Brandosa takes 7th. It was close at the line between those two. Xiaomi in 8th place. Punts in 9th. Chef Toddy rounding out the top 10. The leading of the Shaden Racing Team cars in what was a difficult outing in the 3rd and final race for them. Mix taking 11th. Wiseacre takes 12th ahead of this man at HSV. And Lurox is going to cross the line eventually. There you go. Across the line for 14th and last, and doing so with a dash of flair. Well, certainly interesting in all 3 races there. No one was free of error, I don't think, across the 3 races. Not even Diswood, who took all 3 wins, clearly had some issues on those last couple of laps, unless he was just waiting for a formation finish. But excellent driving from the CP Motorsport team. Diswood in particular put in a great drive and will be very happy to add all 3 of those bits of silverware to his trophy cabinet. Look at those results again. As we say, Diswood and Papa, formation flying at the end there. It's Racing will be happy to recover to 3rd place after a tricky 2nd race. Pointed will be ruining that 1st race, admittedly. However, still taking 2 4ths there at the end. Very impressive. Almost got that podium as well. Gabans with a good wildcard outing there, taking 5th in that race and looking strong all day long. Spud, 6th place in the last race. Maybe not happy with that, but overall I think he's probably done his championship lead maybe not many favours with that last race result, but he's certainly not done it an injustice. Brandosa and Shiami 7th and 8th. Punts in 9th. He won't be best pleased with that. He's a championship contender, but he's not really been with it today at Fuji. I think the Leap Breaker mechanical drivers will be fairly happy with their weekend as well. Toddy taking 10th, Mix taking 11th. As RoboSport himself said, not a great day for the RoboSports racing team, especially with Lurox not really showing his potential in those last 2 races. Wiseacre and HSV finishing 12th and 13th. Wiseacre, 2 great races and 1 unfortunate race for him. So that is the end of the broadcast. That is the end of round 4 of the season for the EBM Trackstars Touring Car Series. Mount Fuji there in the distance, looking over some great racing. And we'll be back at Fuji next week with the Formula Trackstars cars. And we will, of course, be back with the touring cars in the not-too-distant future as well. The Bathurst Sprint is next on April 11th. And so the mountain, Mount Panorama, will be our next host for the touring car series, and surely that will be something to look forward to. So, thank you everyone for tuning in. That's the end of our broadcast for today. If you haven't already subscribed to the Trackstars Touring Cars YouTube channel, do so. It's well worth joining us for more of this racing action. Hit the bell icon to get notifications of when we go live with these events, and also do give the stream a thumbs up as well. Every little helps in terms of getting us further up the YouTube algorithm. Certainly we've got some great racing in the series, some great drivers, and the action never dulls here in Trackstars. Thank you so much for joining us. We'll be back with more next weekend, of course, and the Trackstars Touring Cars will be back in a couple of weeks at Mount Panorama. But until then, thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see you next time. Ta-ta for now.